Serenity, through the spiritual practice of surrender. We live in a world that constantly tells us to control our careers, control our relationships, control our future. Yet, much of our stress comes from the exhausting struggle to manage situations that are ultimately beyond our influence. Jesus reminds us in Matthew 6 to pray, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done." This prayer is a posture of surrender. It is the recognition that serenity is not found in control, but in trust. Today, let's explore 4 essential steps to achieve inner peace through surrender. Step 1. Letting go of control. Stress often arises when we try to play God. We attempt to control people's choices, outcomes we cannot predict, and even the future itself. But surrender begins with humility, acknowledging that we are not the author of the story. The Serenity Prayer captures this beautifully. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Letting go of control begins with accepting our limits. We must recognize that we cannot control another person's heart, nor can we dictate tomorrow's events. What we can do is find courage in choosing our own responses, shaping our attitudes, and walking in obedience to God's will. Alongside this courage, we need wisdom discernment that helps us stop wasting energy on battles that were never ours to fight. When we accept our limits, act with courage, and seek wisdom, we free ourselves from unnecessary burdens and open our hearts to the serenity that comes through surrender. Letting go is not defeat, it is freedom. It is resting in the assurance that God is sovereign. Step 2. Learning to be content. Philippians 4 teaches us that contentment is not natural, but it is learned. Paul writes, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances." Notice the word learned. Contentment is a spiritual discipline, cultivated through trust. Learning to be content begins with trusting God's presence, even when He does not explain the why behind our trials. His promise is not always to remove the pain, but to walk with us through it. This truth redefines peace, not as the absence of problems, but as the assurance of God's nearness. When we embrace this perspective, our hardships become teachers rather than enemies. Pain can shape us into people of deeper dependence, humility, and resilience. In surrendering to God's presence, we discover that contentment is not about perfect circumstances, but about resting in the one who never leaves us. Contentment grows when we stop demanding explanations and start resting in God's companionship. Step 3. Laying down our plans. Life rarely unfolds according to our script. We plan carefully, but interruptions come: illness, financial strain, unexpected responsibilities. Surrender means loosening our grip on our own agenda. Laying down our plans begins with releasing our resources. Instead of hoarding our time, money, and energy for ourselves, we learn to use them unselfishly to bless others. This shift requires a change in perspective, moving from self-centeredness to love, from clinging to my plan to embracing God's purpose. When we surrender our personal agendas, we discover the joy of living generously. In that generosity, we find that God's design for our lives is far greater, richer, and more fulfilling than anything we could have imagined on our own. This is not about abandoning responsibility. It is about aligning our priorities with God's heart. Step 4. Leaving the future to God. Worry about tomorrow robs us of today. Jesus calls us to live one day at a time. Proverbs 3:6 assures us, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." Leaving the future to God begins with trusting His guidance, for He promises direction when we acknowledge Him in all our ways. Serenity comes when we stop rehearsing future fears and instead choose to embrace today's blessings, living fully in the present moment. Faith, after all, is not about seeing the entire road ahead, but about walking step by step, trusting the one who lights each step along the way. When we release tomorrow into His hands, we discover the peace of living one day at a time, confident that God will lead us on the right path. Surrender means releasing tomorrow into God's hands and focusing on faithfully living today. Surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It is the courage to trust God's will over our own. While we are called to obey Him, He promises to care for us, sustain us through hardships, and reward us far beyond our own efforts. Lord, I release my grip. I trust your will. I surrender my plans, my worries, and my future into your hands. Let your kingdom come. Let your will be done.